morning everyone, and welcome to today's video. This is an introduction to a series of videos that you're going to see. So much of my life I want to share with all of you, and I am going to be sharing with you my audiobook. It is the story of my life. I thought maybe in some of these videos that you could just turn it on and listen to it as you work, or you can sit with me and drink a cup of coffee and listen to my life story. I'm going to take you on a journey from the very moments I was born until today. But it's going to be going in chapters. I'm going to name the chapters in my videos in the title so you know from one chapter to the next. I have quite a dramatic story of my life. There's been a lot of things that I have gone through, and I shared a lot of it through the years on my YouTube channel, but I've never shared it in book form. And that's why I'm sharing it today with all of you in the chapters of my life. Most of you know me as Tessie, Homestead Tessie, the girl who turns her camera on every day of her life to share with the world. I live in an old 1963 mobile home. I am a mother, I'm a wife, I am a sister, I am a grandma, but there's so much more to me. And I want to share with you chapter 1. Today is chapter 1, The Motherless Child, the story of my birth. Now, there's always a birth story that people can share. You know, it's very special. It's very unique. Each one of us is born differently. Each one of us has a story of our births. But not every one of us has a story like my birth, because my birth was the beginning and my birth was the end of someone else's life. I was born in 1970 in a little town called Ephrata, Pennsylvania. When I was born, moments through my birth, my mother passed away. In fact, my mother actually went into a coma during the cesarean section. I was the third child of 3 years. I have an older sibling that is a girl, and she is 2 years older than me. Then I have a brother who is a year older than me, and then it was me. My mother was age 21 when she passed away. One cold January day, she gave birth to me at 5 a.m. And then within moments, she collapsed and was in a coma. My mother never knew that she gave birth to me. My mother never set eyes on me. My mother never knew anything after she was put under to have the cesarean. Weeks and months before my mother passed away, while some of this is hearsay knowledge, it comes from a reliable source of someone who knew my mother when my mother was growing up. She came forward just in the last couple years and shared with me lots of things about my mother that I never knew. In fact, I would have never known it if it wasn't that I had a YouTube channel, and she got to know me through my YouTube channel, and then she realized that she knows who I really am. She told me my mother really complained a lot of having a leg pain. She complained a lot about her leg hurting. And in those days, I guess nothing really was done about that. Doctors really didn't do the things that they do now, and well, I guess they just left it go. When my mother was in through the cesarean birth of me, she developed a blood clot that traveled to her lung. Immediately, my mom was in a coma. My mom died 48 hours after I was born. Can you imagine if you were the father and seeing your daughter being born and then your wife losing her life all in the same time? I cannot imagine anybody going through that, and I sympathize for my blood father for what he went through. I can't imagine the trauma of it. I can't imagine facing that baby and seeing the baby and knowing that the baby was me and the wife is gone. My mother's name was Carrie, and to this day, I love the name Carrie. I think it's such a beautiful name. Right after my mother died, my father didn't know what to do with me. You see, he had a two-year-old and a 1-year-old, and there's just simply no way he could take care of me. He took me from family to family, but nobody was willing to take me in, to take care of me. And so Here I was, a newborn baby without a mother that was passed from family to family. It's a bad circumstance. It's something you could never even imagine, the trauma of it all. I was not a good baby. I cried extensively. I cried all the time. And there was reasons for that crying, which I may get into in further videos. But with chapter 1, it's about me and my birth. Well, my father came to the door one day, and this is a story that my parents always told me. And if it's something my parents told me, it was a fact. My parents never lied. My parents always told the truth. And my parents, from little on up, told me my birth story. And the story goes like this. When I was just a couple weeks old, about 8 weeks old, my father came to the door and knocked on the door and asked if my parents would take me in. Now, through marriage, my parents were a relation with my blood father through marriage. So they didn't really know my blood father that well, but yet he was part of, through marriage, with the siblings of my mother, marrying the siblings of my father, my blood father. It's very complicated, but you get the idea. So they knew who they were, and they knew that my birth mother passed away. And he asked if they would take care of me, because he just didn't know what to do. He had to make a living. He had 2 small children still at home. When he knocked on the door, and when my parents accepted me, my mother, my adopted mother, when I say my mother now, it's going to be my mom. See, my mom and my dad, I call my mom and my dad, are my adopted parents. So when I say mom and daddy, they're my mom and daddy. They took me in, but the clothing that I wore needed to be returned. Now, why I didn't have any clothing with me, I don't know the story of that, but I didn't have any clothing, and the outfit that I was wearing needed to be returned. Here I was, a newborn, basically a newborn baby in a family that didn't have any newborn things. And here's where the special part comes in. My mother received me one day, and that night she started sowing her love and her affection for me. I was a child that had nowhere to go. I had no family of my own. And here I was in the family of my mom and dad. That night, my mom stayed up, as the story goes, by my mother, who told me this story hundreds and millions of times. My mother stayed up till midnight, sewing me little dresses. These are the original little dresses that my mom sewed for me. As you can see, they were all hand-stitched in the front, and she sewed them on her sewing machine. And thus, I became their daughter of Bill and Darlene. My name is Teresa, and that was given to me before I actually was adopted. And it was said that my blood family, or my blood father, asked if I would keep the name because my birth mother gave the name. And my parents respected that. And there I am, Tessie, into a family that didn't have any little children. My sister was 5, and my mother wanted more children, but she couldn't seem to have any more until the day that I arrived. And that is chapter 1. I hope you continue to listen on Friday for chapter 2.